The automatic doors of celestial motors slid open, and every conversation in the showroom died at once. Danny Webb walked in slowly. His boots left dusty prints on the chrome floor. His jacket had burn marks on one sleeve. His pants were faded from years of wear. He looked like a man who had crawled out of a cargo container, not someone who belonged in the most expensive ship dealership in 3 galaxies. The showroom was beautiful. Holographic displays showed luxury vessels spinning slowly in the air. The floors were so clean, they reflected the ceiling lights like mirrors. Wealthy aliens of a dozen species stood examining ships that cost more than entire planets. And now they were all staring at him. Danny ignored them. He walked toward the reception desk, his worn boots squeaking slightly on the perfect floor. Behind him, he heard whispers. Is that a human? What is he doing here? Someone should call security. A tall alien with silver skin and 4 arms stepped into Danny's path before he could reach the desk. The alien wore an expensive suit and a name tag that read, Foreman Grix, Senior Sales Manager. Grix looked Danny up and down with obvious disgust. His 4 arms crossed over his chest. I believe you're a lost earther, Grix said loudly. Several nearby customers turned to watch. The salvage yards are on the lower levels. This establishment serves a more refined clientele. Danny stopped walking. He was shorter than Grix by nearly a foot. He did not seem bothered by this. I'm not lost, Danny said. His voice was calm and quiet. I would like to see your sovereign-class vessels. Grix's silver face twisted into an expression of amusement. He turned to look at his fellow salespeople, making sure they were watching. They were. The sovereign class. Grix laughed. Human, those ships start at 200 million credits. Perhaps you meant our pre-owned shuttle section? 2 levels down. Turn left at the Waste Recycling Center. More laughter from the crowd. Danny did not react. I meant the sovereign class, he repeated. Specifically, the Sovereign Apex model. Now the laughter stopped. The Sovereign Apex was the most expensive personal vessel ever manufactured. Only 17 existed in the entire galaxy. Kings and emperors owned them. Ancient families who controlled entire star systems owned them. That a human salvage worker asking to see one was like an insect asking to purchase a sun. Grix's amusement turned to annoyance. He pulled out a small device and pointed it at Danny. Let's check your credentials, shall we? Standard procedure for all customers. The device scanned Danny with a blue light. A holographic display appeared in the air between them, large enough for everyone nearby to read. Human, Grix read aloud. Sol system origin. Tertiary citizen classification. He paused for effect. Tertiary, the lowest economic rating in the Galactic Union. How wonderful. Danny said nothing. Current occupation, Grix continued, salvage operations. Current registered assets. He squinted at the display. No registered assets above the reporting threshold. No corporate affiliations. No family wealth indicators. Grix closed the device with a snap. As I suspected, you are nobody from nowhere, human. You cannot afford to breathe the air in this showroom, let alone purchase anything. Danny reached into his jacket pocket. Grix stepped back quickly, his 4 arms rising defensively. Security. Relax, Danny said. He pulled out a small card. It was battered and scratched, clearly old. I want to see the Sovereign Apex. This should cover the viewing deposit. Grix stared at the card. It was a universal credit chip, the kind used for large transactions across the galaxy. But this one looked ancient and worn. That pathetic thing. Grix laughed again, though there was something uncertain in his voice now. Human, the viewing deposit for the Sovereign Apex is 50 million credits. Just to look at the ship. Whatever pitiful savings you have on that ship will not come close. Check it, Danny said. I will not waste my time on. Check it. Something in Danny's voice made Grix pause. For just a moment, the alien's confidence flickered. Then he snatched the card from Danny's hand. Fine. Let us humiliate you properly, human. Let everyone see exactly how poor your species truly is. Grix walked to the main transaction terminal in the center of the showroom. A crowd had gathered now, dozens of wealthy aliens watching the spectacle. Grix inserted the card into the terminal with dramatic flair. Processing now, Grix announced. Let us see what our human friend has managed to save from his garbage collecting. The terminal hummed. The display flickered, and then it kept flickering. Grix frowned. Technical difficulties. One moment. The terminal beeped an error message. Grix tapped the screen. The display flickered again, showing numbers, then scrambling, then showing numbers again. What is wrong with this thing? Grix muttered. Danny stood perfectly still, watching. The terminal made a strange sound. The display went blank. Then, slowly, numbers began to appear. Grix stared at the screen. His four arms dropped to his sides. His silver skin went pale. The crowd pressed closer, trying to see. One by one, they fell silent as they read the number on the display, 800 billion galactic credits. Verified. Legitimate. Real. Danny walked forward and gently took his card back from Grix's limp fingers. Now, he said quietly, I would like to see the sovereign apex. Please. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. The number on the screen burned in the air like a small sun. 800 billion credits. Grix stood frozen, his four arms hanging uselessly at his sides. His mouth opened and closed several times, but no words came out. Behind him, the crowd of wealthy customers stared at Danny Webb like he had just grown a second head. A young Tuluvian saleswoman named Mira pushed through the crowd. She had been watching from the back, uncomfortable with how Grix had treated the human. Now she stared at the terminal screen with wide eyes. That cannot be real, someone whispered. Run it again. Another voice demanded. Grix's hands shook as he tapped the terminal. The system verified the amount a second time, then a third time. Each verification came back the same. Verified. Legitimate. Funds available. Danny Webb, human salvage worker from the Sol system, was worth more than most planetary governments. How? Grix finally managed to speak. His voice cracked. How is this possible? Danny tucked his credit chip back into his jacket pocket. You said I could see the sovereign apex if I paid the deposit. The deposit is 50 million. I believe I have that covered. The silence stretched on. Nobody knew what to do. This was not how things worked. Humans were poor. Humans were primitive. Humans were the species that took dangerous jobs because nobody else wanted them. Humans did not walk into luxury dealerships with fortunes larger than ancient family empires. A soft chime echoed through the showroom. A new hologram appeared in the air above the crowd. It was an elderly alien with deep blue skin and eyes that seemed to hold centuries of knowledge. Grand Director Solvan, Mira gasped. The entire showroom went even more still. Grand Director Solvan owned Celestial Motors. All of it. Every dealership in 3 galaxies answered to him. He had not appeared in public for decades. Most employees had never seen him. But he was here now, his holographic form, studying Danny Webb with intense interest. Foreman Grix, Solvan's voice was soft, but carried through the entire showroom. Step aside. I will be handling this customer personally. Grix stumbled backward so fast he nearly fell. Of course, Grand Director. Of course. Solvan's hologram turned to Danny. Mr. Webb, please follow the guide lights to my private office. I believe we have much to discuss. A trail of soft blue lights appeared on the floor, leading toward a lift at the back of the showroom. Danny nodded politely to the hologram and began walking. The crowd parted for him like water. Nobody met his eyes. The same aliens who had laughed at him minutes ago now pressed against the walls to let him pass. Danny walked slowly, his worn boots still leaving dusty prints on the chrome floor. He did not look back. Mira watched him go. Then she turned to look at Grix. The sales manager was sweating. His silver skin had turned an unhealthy gray color. He knew what he had done. He had publicly humiliated someone who could buy the entire dealership with pocket change. His career was over. His reputation was finished. What have I done? Grix whispered. The lift doors closed behind Danny Webb, and the showroom exploded into noise. Did you see that? 800 billion. A human with that much wealth. Where did he get it? How is that possible? The questions flew through the air, but nobody had answers. Mira slipped away from the chaos and found a quiet corner. She pulled up her personal terminal and searched the galactic networks for any information about Danny Webb. There was almost nothing. A few cargo manifests. some salvage licenses, a registered home base in the Outer Territories. The Outer Territories, Mira felt a chill run down her spine. The Outer Territories were the most dangerous region of known space. Uncharted systems, dead civilizations, anomalies that drove ships and crews mad. The survival rate for salvage workers in that region was less than 10%, but the rewards if you survived were beyond imagination. Ancient technology, lost treasures, artifact from species that had gone extinct a million years ago. Things that collectors and governments would pay any price to own. Mira looked toward the lift where Danny had disappeared. 11 years in the Outer Territories. That was what his salvage license showed. 11 years in the deadliest place in the galaxy. That he had not just survived. He had come back rich beyond measure. She thought about how calm he had been. How he had not reacted to the insults, the laughter, the public humiliation. How he had stood there with that quiet patience while Grix mocked him. That was not the patience of a weak man. That was the patience of someone who had faced real danger. Someone who had looked death in the face so many times that the petty cruelty of a showroom bully meant nothing. Back on the main floor, Grix was being questioned by his fellow salespeople. They wanted to know what would happen to him. They wanted to distance themselves from his actions. I did not know. Grix kept saying, "How could I have known?" But that was the problem, Mira realized. He had not tried to know. He had seen a human in worn clothes and assumed he was worthless. He had not asked a single question. He had not shown a moment of basic courtesy. He had judged Danny Webb by his appearance, and now that judgment was going to cost him everything. Upstairs in the Grand Director's private office, the real conversation was just beginning. The lift opened into a room filled with wonders. Danny stepped out slowly, his eyes moving across shelves that held artifacts from 1,000 civilizations. Crystal sculptures that hummed with energy. Metal devices whose purpose had been forgotten centuries ago. Paintings made with colors that no longer existed in the known universe. Grand Director Solvan sat behind a desk made from the wood of a tree that had gone extinct before humanity learned to make fire. He was smaller than his hologram had suggested. Older too, but his eyes were sharp and bright. "Please sit, Mr. Webb," Solvan said, gesturing to a chair. "May I offer you something to drink?" Danny sat down. "Water will be fine." Solvan poured 2 glasses from a crystal pitcher. "I apologize for Foreman Grix. His behavior was unacceptable. I have had worse." "I imagine you have." Solvan leaned back in his chair. 11 years in the Outer Territories. That is quite a record, Mr. Webb. Danny sipped his water. "You know about me. I make it my business to know about potential customers, especially those with the funds to purchase my most expensive vessels." Solvan smiled slightly. "But I must admit, I knew of you before today. Not by name, by reputation." Danny waited. "The salvage community speaks of a human," Solvan continued. "They call him the Returner, because he always comes back from places where nothing should survive. The Black Archive of Kelix, the Ghost Fleet in the Progenitor Wastes, the Wound itself." Solvan's eyes studied Danny carefully. 47 days alone in the wound. I did not think that was possible. It nearly was not. How did you do it? Danny was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Humans are very difficult to kill." Solvan laughed. It was a genuine sound, full of real amusement. "Yes, I have noticed this about your species. The galaxy has tried to kill humanity many times. Bad colony worlds, dangerous trade routes, jobs that no sensible species would accept. And yet you keep surviving. You keep coming back." Danny set down his water glass. "We do not have a choice. When we arrived in the galaxy, we were given nothing. The worst planets, the most dangerous work. We were told we were too primitive, too short-lived, too fragile. So we took what was offered and we made it work. And now you are worth 800 billion credits." "Now I am worth 800 billion credits," Danny agreed. Solvan was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "What do you plan to do with such wealth, Mr. Webb?" "Buy ships. Hire crew. Keep working. Keep working." Solvan sounded surprised. "You could purchase a small planet. You could live in luxury for 1,000 human lifetimes. Why would you continue salvage operations?" Danny looked at the artifacts on the shelves around them. Ancient things from dead civilizations. treasures that had survived longer than the species that made them. There is a place, he said slowly, beyond the outer territories. The charts call it the Silent Expanse. Civilizations vanished there millions of years ago. No one knows why. No one has ever mapped that region and come back. Solvin's expression grew serious. You cannot mean to go there. I have been preparing for it my whole career. Mr. Webb, that is suicide. The Silent Expanse is not just uncharted. It is wrong. The physics that do not work properly. Ships that enter do not return. Ever. Danny met Solvin's eyes. Ships piloted by other species do not return. Humans have never tried. The silence that followed was heavy. Solvin stared at Danny like he was seeing him for the first time. You believe humans can survive where others cannot. I believe humans can survive anywhere, Danny said simply. That is what we do. That is all we have ever done. Everyone tells us something is impossible, and we do it anyway. Not because we are stronger or smarter, because we are too stubborn to know when to quit. Solvin sat back in his chair. His ancient eyes held something new. Respect, perhaps, or maybe just wonder. You are either the bravest man I have ever met, Solvin said, or the most insane. My crew says both. Solvin laughed again. Then he leaned forward. I want to make you an offer, Mr. Webb. Not just a ship sale, a partnership. Celestial Motors will provide you with vessels, equipment, and support. In exchange, we receive exclusive rights to distribute whatever you bring back from the Silent Expanse. Danny considered this. That could be nothing. I might not return. Then we lose some ships. But if you do return, Solvin's eyes gleamed. If you do return with artifact from the Silent Expanse, we will both become legends. Danny thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. I will take 3 sovereign Apex vessels. Full expedition configuration. And I want that saleswoman from downstairs. Mira. She seems decent. Solvan raised an eyebrow. Mira? She is junior staff. What do you want with her? She looked uncomfortable when Grix was insulting me. That means she has a conscience. I need people like that on my crew. Solvan smiled slowly. Mr. Webb, I think this is going to be a very profitable relationship. They shook hands across the ancient wooden desk. The lift doors opened and Danny Webb stepped back onto the showroom floor. Everything stopped. Every conversation, every movement, every breath. The entire room turned to watch him descend the final steps. Grand Director Solvin's hologram appeared beside him. The ancient alien's voice carried across the silent showroom. I am pleased to announce that Mr. Danny Webb has agreed to a historic partnership with Celestial Motors. He will be purchasing 3 sovereign Apex vessels for an expedition into uncharted space. In addition, our company will serve as the exclusive distributor for any artifacts recovered during his journeys. 3 sovereign Apex vessels. The number echoed through the crowd. One such ship would be the purchase of a lifetime. 3 was beyond imagination. Danny walked forward, and this time the crowd did not just part for him. They pressed back against the walls. They could not take their eyes off the human in the dusty jacket and worn boots. Grix stood near the transaction terminal, exactly where Danny had left him. The silver alien had not moved. His 4 arms hung limply at his sides. His face was the color of old metal. Danny stopped in front of him. The showroom held its breath. I'm not going to ask for you to be fired, Danny said quietly. His voice was calm, almost gentle. That is not why I came here. Grix's mouth moved, but no sound came out. I want to tell you something, Danny continued. A story. Will you listen? Grix managed a tiny nod. When humanity first reached the stars, Danny began, we were nothing. A young species from a small planet. We had no ancient wealth, no powerful allies, no technology worth trading. The Galactic Union looked at us and saw primitives. The crowd was listening now. Every alien in the showroom had their attention fixed on the human. They gave us the worst colony worlds, Danny said. Planets with bad air, unstable gravity, dangerous wildlife. They gave us the trade, routes nobody else wanted. The jobs that paid almost nothing and killed almost everyone. They told us we were lucky to get even that. Danny's voice remained steady. There was no anger in it, just truth. My grandfather was a miner on a colony called New Haven. Toxic atmosphere, acid rain, 12-hour shifts underground every day until his lungs gave out. My father was a cargo hauler on the breakneck run, 70% casualty rate. He made 37 trips before a navigation failure killed him. Grix's silver skin had gone even paler. When I was 19, Danny continued, our colony was abandoned. The Galactic Commerce Union decided it was not profitable enough. They pulled out the equipment, the supplies, the medical support. They left us with nothing. 3,000 people stranded on a dying world. I did not know. Grix whispered. No, you did not ask. Danny's eyes met Grix's. I took my first salvage job to pay for evacuation ships. I was not qualified. I had no training. I was told I would die in the first week. I went anyway because my family needed me to go. The silence in the showroom was absolute. 11 years, Danny said. 11 years in the outer territories. I have been shot, stabbed, burned, frozen, poisoned, and left for dead more times than I can count. I have watched friends die in ways I cannot describe. I have seen things that would drive most species mad. He gestured at his worn jacket, his dusty boots, his scarred hands. This is what survival looks like. This is what humans look like when we have been doing the jobs nobody else will do, going to places nobody else will go for generations. We do not wear fancy clothes. We do not have time for luxury. We are too busy surviving. Danny stepped closer to Grix. The alien flinched, but did not retreat. You looked at me and saw a poor, dirty human. You assumed I was worthless because I did not look wealthy. But you never asked how I got this way. You never wondered what I might have survived to stand here in front of you. Danny reached out and straightened Grix's collar. The gesture was almost kind. The next time someone walks through those doors looking tired and worn, maybe ask them what they have been through. Maybe treat them with basic respect. You might be surprised what you learn. Grix's eyes were wet. His forearms trembled. I am sorry, he said. His voice cracked. I am so sorry. Danny nodded slowly. I believe you. He turned to face the crowd. Dozens of aliens stared back at him. Wealthy traders, ancient families, powerful beings who had never given humans a second thought. Humanity is 300 years old in this galaxy, Danny said. We are young. We are poor. We die faster than most species. But we do not stop. We do not quit. We take the impossible jobs and we find a way to survive. That is who we are. He walked toward the exit. The crowd parted before him like a wave. Remember that, Danny said over his shoulder. The next time you think about looking down on us, remember what we survive. The automatic doors slid open and Danny Webb walked out into the station. Behind him, nobody moved for a very long time. News travels fast on a space station. News like this travels faster. Within an hour, every shop, every bar, every trading post on Praxis Station knew about the human in the dealership. Within 2 hours, the story had spread to nearby systems. By the end of the day, half the sector was talking about Danny Webb, a human. A salvage worker, 800 billion credits, 3 sovereign Apex vessels, a partnership with Celestial Motors, and a speech he had given before walking out. Recordings of the showroom confrontation spread across the galactic networks. Billions of beings watched Grix's arrogance, the verification of Danny's wealth, and his quiet, devastating response. The video was replayed and analyzed and discussed in languages Danny had never heard. But the real change happened in smaller ways. In a cargo bay on the lower levels of Praxis Station, a group of human dock workers gathered around a small screen. They watched Danny's speech in silence. When it ended, one of them stood up a little straighter. That could be any of us, he said. We all came from places like that. In a trading company office, a Teluvian manager reviewed the list of humans on his staff. He had never thought much about them before. They were cheap labor, reliable workers who never complained. Now he wondered what stories they carried with them. What had they survived to get here? In the Celestial Motors showroom, Mira found a quiet corner and watched the recording again. She had been there, but seeing it from outside was different. She could see how the other aliens had treated Danny, how they had laughed, how they had assumed, how she had said nothing. Her terminal chimed. A message from Grand Director Solvan himself. Mr. Webb has requested that you be offered a position on his expedition crew. The choice is yours. Your current contract will be honored either way. Mira stared at the message. Her hand shook slightly. She had worked at Celestial Motors for 3 years. It was a good job. Safe. Respected. The kind of position that her family had hoped she would find. But Danny Webb had looked at a room full of powerful aliens and spoken the truth. He had faced mockery with patience. He had responded to cruelty with wisdom. He was about to fly into the most dangerous region in the galaxy, and he had asked for her, not because she was powerful or wealthy or important, because she had looked uncomfortable when Grix was being cruel, because she had a conscience. Mira typed her response. 2 words. I accept. Across the station, in a small bar frequented by salvage workers, a group of humans raised their glasses. To Danny Webb, one of them said, "The returner, the returner." The others echoed. An alien trader at the next table leaned over. "I heard about what happened to the dealership. Is it true? Does he really have that much money?" "Brother," one of the humans said with a grin, "Danny Webb has been bringing back impossible treasures for 11 years. The money does not surprise us. What surprises us is that he finally let someone else find out. Why did he keep it secret?" The human shrugged. "Because Danny does not care about money. He cares about the work. The money is just how he funds the next trip, the next mission, the next impossible thing." The alien trader thought about this. And now, what is his next impossible thing? The silent expanse. The table went quiet. Even the alien knew that name. A region of space where nothing returned. A place of forgotten civilizations and unexplained disappearances. "That is suicide," the trader said. "That is what they said about the wound. About the ghost fleet. About every place Danny has ever gone." The human finished his drink and smiled. And every time, he came back. Back at Celestial Motors, Grix had retreated to a storage room. His career was over. He knew that. The recordings were everywhere. He would be known forever as the alien who had mocked the wealthiest human in the galaxy. But it was not the embarrassment that hurt. It was what Danny had said, his grandfather dying from toxic air, his father killed on a cargo run, his colony abandoned by the same galactic system that Grix served. A whole life of impossible hardship, written in scars and dust and worn-out clothing. And Grix had laughed at him. For the first time in his long career, Grix felt something he had never felt before. Shame. Real shame, deep in his chest. There was a knock on the storage room door. Grix did not respond, but the door opened anyway. It was Mira. "I just accepted a position on Webb's crew," she said. "I wanted you to know." Grix looked up at her. "Why are you telling me?" "Because I almost said nothing when you were insulting him. I almost let it happen without speaking up. I'm ashamed of that." Grix was silent. "He gave you a second chance," Mira continued. "He could have destroyed your career completely. Instead, he just asked you to do better. Maybe you should take that chance." She left without waiting for a response. Grix sat alone in the dark storage room for a very long time. Then he stood up, straightened his suit, and walked back onto the showroom floor. There was work to do. 3 weeks later, the Sovereign Apex gleamed in the docking bay. Danny Webb stood before his new ship, looking up at the sleek hull that reflected the station lights like a dark mirror. It was the most advanced vessel ever built. Faster, stronger, and more capable than anything he had ever piloted. But a ship was just a tool. What mattered was where you took it. Behind him, his crew was loading the last of the supplies. 37 people in total. 29 humans and 8 aliens who had volunteered for the impossible mission. Among them was Mira, her silver skin looking out of place among the weathered human salvage workers. She had adapted quickly. The crew respected her willingness to learn, her refusal to complain about the hard work. Danny had been right about her. "Last cargo container secured," reported a voice over the communication system. "We are ready when you are, boss." Danny nodded slowly. "Good. Everyone board up. We leave in 1 hour." The crew moved with practiced efficiency. They had all survived things that should have killed them. That was why Danny had chosen them. Not for their skills, though those were considerable. For their stubbornness. Their refusal to accept that something was impossible. Footsteps approached from behind. Danny turned to find Grand Director Solvan walking toward him, accompanied by a small group of assistants. "Mr. Webb." Sullivan extended his hand. I wanted to see you off, personally. Danny shook the ancient alien's hand. Thank you for the ships and the partnership. Thank you for giving an old man something to believe in. Sullivan's eyes were warm. I have been in this business for 400 years. I thought I had seen everything. Then a human in a dusty jacket walked into my showroom and reminded me that the universe still holds wonders. If I find any wonders in the silent expanse, Danny said, I will bring them back. If anyone can, it is you. Sullivan hesitated, then added, there is one more thing. Foreman Grix asked me to give you a message. Danny raised an eyebrow. Grix, he has been different since your encounter. Working harder, treating customers with more respect. He asked me to tell you that he is trying to do better. He wanted you to know. Danny was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. Tell him I appreciate that. Sullivan smiled. I will. Safe travels, Mr. Webb. The old alien walked away, and Danny climbed the boarding ramp into his ship. The interior of the Sovereign Apex was everything the brochures had promised. Advanced systems, comfortable quarters, state-of-the-art equipment. But Danny's attention was fixed on the cockpit, where his pilot was running final checks. Systems green, the pilot reported. Drive core is stable. Navigation is locked. We are good to go. Danny sat down in the captain's chair. Through the forward view screen, he could see the docking bay doors beginning to open. Beyond them, stars glittered in the endless dark. All hands, Danny spoke into the ship-wide communication system. This is Webb. In a few minutes, we're going to jump to the edge of charted space. From there, we will proceed into the silent expanse, a region that has swallowed every expedition ever sent into it. He paused, letting the words sink in. I will not lie to you. This might be a one-way trip. We might find nothing. We might find something that kills us all. I have no idea what is waiting out there. Silence filled the ship. But I know what is behind us. A galaxy that looked at humans and saw nothing worth respecting. A system that gave us the worst jobs, the worst worlds, the worst chances. They expected us to fail. They expected us to die. And we survived anyway. Danny leaned forward in his chair. The silent expanse has beaten everyone who ever tried to cross it. Every ancient species. Every advanced civilization. None of them made it back. But none of them were us. None of them were humans. He smiled slightly. So here is what we're going to do. We're going to fly into the place where nothing returns. We're going to find out what happened to all those lost civilizations. And then we're going to come back and tell the galaxy what we found. Because that is what humans do. We survive the impossible. We return from the places that kill everything else. He could feel the crew listening. 37 souls, ready to follow him into the unknown. Prepare for departure, Danny said. Let us make history. The Sovereign Apex rose from the docking bay floor. Through the view screen, Danny watched Praxis Station fall away beneath them. The great ring of lights and metal grew smaller and smaller until it was just another point of light among the stars. Somewhere down there, aliens were still talking about the human in the dealership, still watching the recordings of his speech, still trying to understand how someone so young, so fragile, so easily overlooked could carry such strength. They would learn. Navigation locked, the pilot announced. Silent expanse coordinates confirmed. Ready to jump on your command. Danny looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, in the darkness beyond all maps, secrets waited. Civilizations that had vanished 1,000,000 years ago. Technology that no living species had ever seen. Answers to questions that the galaxy had forgotten how to ask. He thought about his grandfather, coughing in the toxic mines. His father, making one more run on the deadliest route in the sector. His colony, abandoned and left to die. All the humans who had worked and suffered and survived, generation after generation, with nothing but stubbornness and hope. This was for them. This was for all of them. Jump, Danny said. The stars stretched into lines of light. The Sovereign Apex leaped forward into the unknown. And Danny Webb, the human who always returned, flew toward the place where nothing came back. That he was smiling.